So the story is there's a group of guys up in the north of England who have decided for completely, bizarre reasons that obviously what they're going to do is become suicide bombers. And the group, it consists of one guy who's a kind of family man, one guy who's not the brightest, one guy who's a complete zealot. And the film essentially revolves around the central idea that just because they want to be suicide bombers doesn't mean they're not people as well, and also doesn't mean they're not Burks. Here's a clip.
Would you kill me then?
No, of course not. Come on.
I'd kill you, bro.
Would you?
Yeah?
Right, good. Because I would kill you, bro. Right? I'd kill you like that.
Flipping neck, man, would you?
Yeah, of course.
That's what I thought I was joking a bit there, bro.
We're soldiers, bro. Right? Look, whatever's asked you to do it, you do the right thing. Right? You with me?
Yeah?
It's life, innit? It's just life. What is that? It's nothing. It's like being stuck in the queue at Alton Towers. Do you want to be in the queues, or do you want to be on the rides? You want to be on the rides, don't you? You want to be on Nemesis, on Oblivion.
Rubber Dinghy Rapids.
Yeah?
Yeah?
You with me?
Rubber Dinghy Rapids.
Yeah, Rubber Dinghy Rapids.
Now, in many ways, that's kind of pretty much the tone of the film. And once you've got past the sort of, the shock of the initial subject matter, which I think kind of blew up pretty quickly, then that's the tone of the film. It's done in that very sort of low-key comedy style. Now, here's the thing to say about it. Firstly, it has clearly been researched very, very heavily. It's seen entirely from the point of view of those central characters. And I don't think that you could criticise it on any level for being about a subject which the writer and the director don't understand. I mean, obviously, just the very idea of making a comedy about this subject is touchy itself. But clearly, Chris Morris and his co-writers have gone into great depth to find out about the area that they are writing about and making the film about. Essentially, what you get is this really bizarre thing in which there are some really, really funny gags. I mean, laugh out loud funny gags. Some of them slapstick gags. Some of them very black humour, sort of gallows humour gags when some of the suicide bombers blow themselves up. Some very kind of scabrous lines, like for example, the police saying, he said you shot the wrong person. No, that must be the target. It must be a target because I've just shot it. Conversations about whether or not the honey monster is a bear. Ludicrous religious discussions declaring war on Minnie Babybel, all that sort of stuff. But at the centre of it, you do have a kind of a humanist drama about these characters. There are some. I mean, the funny thing about it was that it being a Chris Morris movie, and if you've seen the poster, all over the poster are quotes which say funny, and they also say how funny it is. And there are clearly things in it that are funny. There are, I did laugh a few times in it. I have to say that the overwhelming thing for me was a sense of sadness and tragedy, and because obviously as it moves towards its climax, as it moves into a more and more difficult area, which is that they decide to go and attempt to bomb the London Marathon. Clearly, the subject matter itself is so clearly not funny in any way at all that it's unsurprising that a film about that should not be funny. I don't actually think that's a fault. I thought the film was very well made. I think that its intentions are, broadly speaking, honourable. I think that it's an intelligent drama. It's played, I have to say, very, very well played. And it does walk a knife edge, although it's far less... some of the comedy is quite broad. Some of it, as I said, is kind of, slapstick knockabout stuff. But it's far less confrontational than perhaps you would expect if you're familiar with Chris Morris's other stuff in the past. Some of the stuff he has done has been really, really in your face. It's not like that. Oddly enough, there's a kind of elegiac tone to it, which is... And I think this was my take on it. Although the film doesn't give you a load of backstory about the characters, it doesn't, basically say they are they have these beliefs because they've been mistreated by society, because this, that, and the other. You are left to fill in the backstory for yourself. But if there is a message in the film, what I took away from it was that the real tragedy of it is that these people believe this complete nonsense. The idea of rubber dinghy rapids is basically what you do. You're going to be fast tracked to rubber dinghy rapids because they have been fed ideas that are poisonous. They've been fed ideas that are wicked. They've been fed ideas that are wrong by people who, incidentally, are not the people who are then going on and committing crimes. There is a terrible sense of utter misguided tragedy at the back of all this. Now, how much that's in the movie, how much that's what I took away from it, how much, I don't know. All I can say is that when I saw it, I didn't feel that it in any way trod on toes that it shouldn't tread on. I didn't think it was making light of a subject which is tragic. I didn't think that what it was trying to do was to make us sympathise with people who are wicked. I thought that what it did was in a strangely comedic, in the old sense comedic, not comedic like laugh out loud funny, although there are funny bits in it. gave you a portrait of something which was absolutely heaving with pathos, absolutely heaving with, you know, with oddly enough sadness. There's a very strange little moment in it in which one of the main character, who's pretty much the most intelligent of the bunch, is having a conversation with his kid in which he's trying to explain suicide bombing, but in relation to the Lion King. And it's full of pathos and sadness, and so what I took away from it was I thought it was a well-made film. As I said, I thought it was, you know, I didn't think that it was offensive in any way. I thought that obviously it's a subject which will be very well. I know there was a long discussion this morning on 5 Live about whether or not it's just too close to home to.
Well, it was a specific point which is being made by the father of one of the seven victims, and he said
he said no problem as far as I understand. You carry on.
Well, if it was a general satire about suicide bombers, okay, but it was too close to what actually happened. It was too close, too near the knuckle for as he saw it to be acceptable.
Well, I understand that, because I mean the fact of the matter is the comedy is not broad enough to make you think, oh, what you're watching is a knockabout comedy. Actually, if there is a triumph of the film in that, it is that it doesn't use comedy to distance itself from the appalling reality. I mean, I think that's, oddly enough, what I thought was brave about it, that it doesn't distance itself far enough for you to be able to go, OK, fine, well, this isn't related to a real thing. I mean, as you know, with Chris Morris, he's a comedian in inverted commas, but actually he tends to take things deadly seriously. I mean, I think there is a real serious purpose in what he does. And, you know, I know people have interpreted the movie as, you know, just because they're bombers doesn't mean they're not human. Just because they're monstrous doesn't mean that they are monsters. They are, in the end, people doing something which is hideous, but they're doing it for reasons which are, which are completely confounding. So that didn't bother me. I didn't laugh very much. I didn't find it very funny, although there are individual bits in it that I did find funny. But personally, I think the fact that it wasn't funny is kind of appropriate to the subject.